And thank you all for sticking around. And we're going to continue our conversation about gospel music in the Piedmont, the influence of DJs here in the Piedmont. You know, earlier we talked about how we kind of walked you through the history, how these DJs kind of, you know, developed their personality and their style, which was so much needed for the next step, which is the civil rights movement. You had to have this level of confidence in the person who's giving you the news. It's a relationship between the DJ and the community, and his or her ability to give information to this community. And in some cases, when things got out of hand, they had to kind of temper things down. So these DJs had a tremendous responsibility in the community during the civil rights era. So we're going to tease it out real quick. You've met Jim, Lee, and Ernest over there. Sam. Jim moved. Oh, there's Jim over there. Sam, the Sham, is here with us, and Lee. And this is Mr. Gaskins here, who's from the oldest African American station in the South, WVOE. Is here. Yeah. So we're gonna get started. Look, I'm curious about the role of DJs in the community during the civil rights era. What exactly was their role, their responsibility in terms of giving information out to the public?
Well, it was tremendous because, and you know, I was just thinking a few moments ago, speaking of information out to the public, in a small market, one of the most popular little programs on the entire, and Lee can attest to this, on the entire broadcast day is the obituary. People would turn on to see who died last night. You know what I mean? So, but anyway, as far as I learned the power of that microphone one night. It was during Dr. Martin Luther King got assassinated. Of course, the riots and everything had broken out, and the curfew was on. Nobody could be out after 6 o'clock. We could be out because we were with the media. But anyway, to make a long story short, the guys were at the radio station that evening, and down on Market Street, they were burning and raising sand and everything else. And Prince Ike behind the mic, I mentioned him a few moments ago. Ike was very light complected, and he decided he was going to get in his car and drive down on Market Street, and they thought he was white, folks, and they started throwing the bricks and everything at him. He came back to that radio station, I never will forget, and I quote, he opened up the back door and he hollered all over the place, "Damn this." So we wondered what was going on. So he told us what happened. So to make a long story short, we decided that we were going to put a stop to that riot. We got on the microphone the next day and said, "Look here, Mommy and Daddy, on Friday night, we're going to have a big disco down there on Market Street." And we got law enforcement to rope it off and all. And we went down there, and all of the disc jockeys going to be there, jiving and conniving and playing all the good music and everything. And we said, "Now listen, we're going to have a ball, and once that disco is over, we're going home, and we want you to go home." And guess what, folks? That riot was over. That audience listened to the directions of those little disc jockeys. And that night, I found and realized the power of that microphone. That microphone is a mighty thing.
So, Mr. Lee Cameron, who is this? Tell me about those voices today. Do we still have those voices that have that kind of commitment and power in the community?
No, we don't. Now, I'm sitting beside a man in the train, Sam Tate. Now, I'll never forget it. I think Sam will remember it too. Sam came in the studio one day and said, "Brotherly Love." Now, Prince Ike Goods was the one that gave you that name. He said, "You got a smooth voice. Women are going to love it, so you're going to be the love, man. Your name is Brotherly Love." All right? You remember that, right? Yeah. All right. Sam came and said, "Brotherly Love, I got a bone to pick with you. Yesterday, you sounded every bit like Slick Slack. The day before, you imitated me. The day before that, you acted like Gator Slim. When am I going to hear you on there? When I stopped using the name Brotherly Love and started using my real name, Lee Cameron, which everybody else added, Lee Smooth Cameron, I became myself. I say that to say this. Not everybody can be a Ricky Smiley. Not everybody can be Tom Joyner. Not everybody can be who was a idol of mine, Frankie Crocker, that everybody swore up and down I sounded like and looked alike. You agree? Mm-hmm. So I started being myself.
I agree too.
You do?
I agree.
My personality is informing and educating. And I'll never forget it when I worked in Charlotte. I was asked when I was working at WVOE, why do you feel like you have to educate people? That's my job. Is to educate. I'm not a funny man. I don't tell a lot of jokes. My better half would tell you, yeah, I can joke around and make you laugh at home to ease the pressure, because us experienced men know when you're the husband, you're the thermometer and the barometer in that relationship. And y'all think about it, you'll catch what I'm saying. But today I find that there's so many people who just want to go on the air and make a paycheck. Now, I look at our community. I'm the program director of WVOE in Danville, Virginia. We are number 3 in the market, 18 plus. We're number 1, 35 plus. There are 2 stations ahead of us, and they come out, they're out of Greensboro. 102 Jams, and my alma mater, WQNV. We beat the local top 40 station and the local high country station and the AC station, and all others. And that's because of doing research. Now, you may not remember this either, but Prince Ike once said to me, Brother Lee, if you listen to me, and you listen to us, you can go places we can't go. The next day I said to Sam, tell him what he told me. He said, he probably told you right. And you may not remember this, but Manny Clark, who was programmed at WGIV in Charlotte a long time ago, said to me, if you go back to school and go to college, you'll have a job up there. I took his advice. I went to A&T as well. All right? I will say this. No market is alike, and I did take the advice, and I have gone places that you all didn't go. I worked every format in radio, and when I was doing bluegrass, you probably thought I loved bluegrass and was born into it. I worked at 3 TV stations, all networks, NBC, ABC, and CBS. Do the market research, young program directors. Find out what your market likes. Look at the demographics. I was once asked when I was still in secular radio by a top 40 programmer, we share audience. What is it that you're doing that's different from everybody else doing? I said, I'm doing the same thing you're doing in reverse. He looked at me and said, what's that? I said, I'm programming 80% of the black audience and 20% of the white audience. You're doing that in reverse. I took what you did and reversed it. The reason I did that because one of the largest employers in Lynchburg, Virginia at the time was First Colony Insurance Company. You got black women, white women sitting side by side at the same desk. I'm not playing music to offend them. I want everybody listening to that station. I've got black men and white men working the same jobs at some insurance company or some factory. I want everybody listening to that radio station. Not just my people, but everybody. And with gospel music, the thing I find, yes, it is a ministry, but it's also a business. And too many people cannot separate business, which is Caesar, from ministry, which belongs to God.
All right, what's my question?
The same question.
Same question. I forgot the question. I want to say good afternoon, everybody. Ernie Gaskins from WVOE. Proud to say that WVOE is the oldest black station. It's on record. And I'm sitting here kind of in awe because I'm not really a radio person. I fell in radio about 5 years ago. My background was marketing at the retirement and also a school administrator. And I kind of got in radio, I just kind of walked into it because I was on a talk show as a guest. And that guest, as time went on, that guest obviously got older, and the guy that owned the station, we're very unique in Columbus County. Columbus County is the poorest county in North Carolina. We also, land-wise, is the largest county in North Carolina. We have 2 black radio stations in Columbus County. One of those stations, WENC, about 2 years ago, the owner passed. A couple of weeks after he passed, his wife passed. Nobody wanted the station. His daughter didn't really want that. They tried to run it for a period of time. She said it was just too much. She backed out of it. She sold the station. The station was down for about a year and a half. Really hurt the community because by being being the poorest county of the poorest folk in Columbus County and the poorest folk in North Carolina, our folk really depend on radio. And of course, they are very strong Christian folk, church folk. WVOE, so I'm vice president of WVOE, but I also have my fingers on in WENC as well. I do want to say today that WENC has been repurchased by Dr. Maura Sherd and a radio personality named Ed Clark from up in this area. I don't know if any of you know Ed or not, but his name is Ed Clark. And they are right now remodeling the station, getting ready to set up a new program for the station. And that will come back on air sometime in the very, very near future. Matter of fact, we're playing music now, but at the same time, the programming aspect of it has not taken place. So that's just to kind of give you a little idea of what we're doing in Columbus County. Now, WVOE, let's shift back over. WVOE, I'm there because I do a radio podcast called Real Talk. I'm like my friend here. I'm not well, some people say I am, but I'm not really a funny guy. I try to bring in guests that are in the political piece, so our people will know what's going on. My thought is, if we vote you in, shouldn't you come back and tell us how you are representing us and what's going on a little bit? It's funny how people that we vote in do not come back and talk to us as to what's going on and what we need to do and what they're trying to do for us. In other words, be our voices. They don't come back to us. I also want to try to be informative. One of the things that I noticed at the station doesn't happen, the people that, the organizations and the businesses that spend money at the other stations don't spend money at our station. And I'm looking at, the health department and the hospital, and I'm saying we got the poor, we got the poorest health with our folk in Columbus County, and the hospital has this advertising money, and you advertise when you're going to do these shots and do this seminar over in this community, but you don't advertise it in our community. And the only way that our folk know these things, sometimes you have to really go out and ask, or I have to read them and come back and say, hey guys, this is what's going to happen this Saturday over at so-and-so and so. And so it's not a level playing field at all, not level at all. The stations are very poor. I sit and listen to the DJs, and there's a lady that runs the day-to-day operations, and hopefully I can get some ideas from Mr. Tate, the guys up here, on raising funds. The community call in, you know, they have call in and they give a shout out to Sister so-and-so, you know, and play her song for her. And people, you know, call in from time to time. You know, I just love y'all at the station. And when it's time to show your love with some finances, you're not around. You know, I talk to the guys and I talk to the station about fish fries. You know, guys, we keep having fish fries. You keep having the same 20 people come, they eat the same fish, and you're almost losing money with the fish fries because the price of fish going up, right? And so, I look at the folk there, and the station, you don't want to really invite anyone in because it's not pleasant, it's not bright. You know, folk come to be on your talk show. They're going to come one time. After that, they're probably not going to come back because they don't feel it's not I have to pass the mic to my guest. Now you talk. Now I got to talk, man. It's just because they don't have money to upgrade the systems and that type thing. So the folk that are there are, and this is WVOE, they're trying very hard. The president is a pastor. Maybe sometimes he probably thinks I'm a little bit harder on the ministers than what I should be. But I kind of lean on them a little bit because when the churches have their pastor anniversary and their choir anniversary, you know, they're the first ones you see. And they're making money. But then we say, hey, can you make a little donation to the church? Can I get back with you? You know, and you know what the get back with you piece is. And so I'm saying, guys, we got to get some, and they're in Columbus County, they're over, and Bladen County, which is Bladen County is about second, it's first or second, fourth with us. You got over 100 churches, our churches, in that county. We're talking about a lot of churches, y'all. Any denomination, any kind. But my thought is we got to get them more involved. So we are, I guess my cry, and I may be off a little bit here, Cardo, but Mr. Grant, my thought is the station is on life support. And I really hate to see it on life support like that. There's a Reverend Johnson that's laying on his back as we speak that has written about the only reason that the radio station is still there is only by the grace of God. And I believe that. And he wrote that about 15 years ago. And it's still the same thing. Same thing. And when you have to have employees to put money in the pot to get fish to fry, to raise money for the radio station, there's something wrong with that. And I'm the new guy on the block. I can't say a whole lot because you got Reverend Frank sitting there, that's the president, and Miss Martha runs the day-to-day operations, and they kind of set in their ways of what they want to do. And so how did I get to be vice president is because I made a pretty decent donation and they gave me an office.
That's how it works.
The hope to get some more donations, right? Like board members, right?
Yeah, that's how it works. That's how it works.
And I don't mind it because I'm a community-minded person to try to help. And I you know, the old saying is, it's very true, that your money go where your heart is. Mm-hmm. And if your heart's in something, you will put some money in it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You'll follow it. And my heart is there because our people, without that station, and without those two stations, and we're talking about a station that has 1,000 watts too, y'all. Let me back that one up. So you can hear the radius of that station is what? On a good day, because the beach is 40 miles from there, Myrtle Beach. with 1,000 watts, we get probably a 20-mile radius on a good day. So you got one, where are you getting your advertising from? The little town of Chadburn has a few businesses, but they're going to spend their money with the more powerful stations because it's about money. And people are going to advertise with who they think they're going to get a better return. So, you know, so the advertising piece is not really there, I don't see. Then you got the membership piece, or the people that love the station that, again, you know, prayer line, they call every day, they're calling. It's like clockwork. You got about 5 or 6 ladies that call in for prayer line, and there's one lady, bless her soul, she called in every day, and she prayed for the same people, and it's a list. And I'm saying, why would she put herself in that situation? Because she got to forget somebody. And that, you know how we are now. You didn't ask for nobody to pray for me, but that's all right. And so now you wonder why I'm not speaking to you no more, because you forgot to put me on the prayer list. But they are religious with it. And those are people that don't have a lot of income. So they probably want to make a donation, but they just don't have the funds. Because again, we're the poorest county. So we're in a really serious predicament. It's again, like I said, and I'm throwing that out because I want y'all to know, you know, I hear these guys talking about some of the stations, and I'm like, oh man, they must be doing pretty good. But you know, the station that I go to every day, we need some help financially. I'm trying to get some notes here to take back. We're going to listen to this video again and get this information because these folk need it. And we are also in a very strong political area. You know.
Yeah, thank you. So we're going to try to stay on the civil rights part of this program on the panel, but it's obvious that there's a lot going on on the business side of Black radio. And of course, Mr. Gaskins is very passionate about that. So we're going to try to circle back to the civil rights era in gospel radio. But I also really want you to think about the struggle. Now, he talks about Columbus County, which is it's very political. It's a poor county as well. And I'm curious, during that time period, you know, in around 1964, I think it was, they had the big tobacco uprising in Tarver City, which is in that county. Would the DJs at that time period be facing pressure in how they present the news? Because I know one of the things you talked about was, you know, other markets advertising on your radio station. So I'm wondering if at that particular time period, during the civil rights era, what the pressure might have been like for DJs to present the news and to even give information to the community concerning what's available, marches, and all these different things.
I'm not going to say a couple words on it, and I'm going to pass it because I was a little younger at that time, and I do know that the radio stations had to play a pivotal role because folk didn't have TVs, and if they had the TVs, they weren't, you know, like you mentioned earlier, that technology wasn't good, so they had to depend on the radio to give out information. Do I think that the DJs had to watch a little bit of what they say? Because let's keep in mind too, who had the money, who got the funding, who's in your back pocket. You know, maybe you might need to tone it down a little bit more so than just really saying what you wanted to say and how you wanted to say it. So I'm sure at that time, because Columbus County is a very racist county. and it is now. So I can tell you that back when we were, and I was a young boy, it was, and it still is. So I'm sure that our DJs had to tone it down to a certain point and could not speak as freely as they wanted. And with that, I'm going to turn the mic over because these guys may know a little bit more about the actual, how the DJs dealt with that situation.
Sam, I'm going to let you have the mic first. You dealt with it first, and then I dealt with it.
Well, there's one thing that comes to my mind that's very important. If you're going to get the word out to the community, you need to have a news director, and a lot of stations cannot afford to pay a person. The other thing is, and I found that it's very important that my radio personalities get out there and rub shoulders with the community. People like to say, well, you know, I know Lee Cameron. I had coffee with him yesterday. That's how, and go at a time, you know, I was, when I was a salesman with Xerox Corporation, they told me, well, it's most deals are made on the golf course or in the bar. I hate to say it, but that's reality. So instead of me going to that person's office, when I go in, if I go into his or her office, psychologically, who has the competitive advantage? That person does. If they come to my office, I'm psychological. But find a place, first of all, when do they go on coffee break? Number one, and a lot of business people take at least 2 coffee breaks over and above lunch, right? So if it's going to be down at the drugstore at 10 o'clock, guess who accidentally on purpose is going to be there at 10 o'clock? Hey, Joe, I just want to talk to you about how you're handling your advertising needs. But anyway, in order to get the word out, you need a news director. One thing that I've done that's really helped in especially a college community, or even if it's just a community college, get some interns and let them come in, let them get out there and, you know, go get the feet wet and learn how to do news. It's not so complicated to get some news items, but getting the word out that way is very important.
When I came along, I remember working at WOKKS in Columbus, Georgia, a premier black radio station. And all I said on the air was, Election Day is right around the corner. Make sure you're aware of all the issues at hand. In the studio walks the owner, the operations manager. You can't say that on the air. Why? Because back during the 60s when they were rioting, there was an injunction issued on this radio station because our radio personalities were so powerful in this community. They controlled when people rioted, when they boycotted, when they stopped rioting, when they stopped this, that, and the other. And anybody at this station is subject to go to jail if we say anything political whatsoever. So, that being said, now you told me I couldn't say anything on it, but you did not tell me I could not insinuate through the music that I played.
That's what we're doing.
So that's how we began to get the word out, through the music. Now, I am a proponent of technology, and I love computers. I'm also a proponent, and I firmly believe that direction, listen to me, direction is correction. If your child is going wrong, you correct them so that they will go in the right direction. God does us the same way. If we're sinning, he convicts us, corrects us, and directs us into another way. Now, the problem is with a lot of computers, and automation. And now automation is another thing that has killed personality radio. How you gonna have a personality on radio? You have automated 24 hours a day, nothing but music, and the commercials being played. Now this is not radio station owners that own radio stations, and they are automated. I'm the general manager of one and the morning program, the morning personality there as well. But in order to get the word out on anything, is that you have to communicate with your listeners. And if you're not communicating with your listeners, all you are is a jukebox.
Powerful. Stay right there, because people who know me very well know I've been thinking about this for a very long time. And because I really want you to explain to us all, how did music, how did the DJs use music to communicate with the folks? And I'm saying it because, during the Motown era, they tried very hard to get away from this protest music because it was about money. They were concerned that they're going to lose white audience if they were to stick with this protest music. But then the song came out, it's called People Get Ready. And it wasn't intended to be a protest song, but it just kind of rose to the chart, and people used that song as a protest song. It wasn't intended for that, but they used it because of how DJs would insinuate, right? Would just suggest these things. So Lee, can you talk about how they use these songs to start marches, to indicate different things? Just speak about that, if you will.
If you remember, there were songs like In the Ghetto, Brother, Brother, What's Going On? I could go on and on and on.
Yeah.
Okay. We played these songs, and people knew what was going on.
At the right time.
Right, we played them at the right time. People knew what was going on. And back in that day, we had news directors. Now, the day of automation, this was progressed to, and I don't like it. I am the general manager. I am the program director. I am the music director. I am the sales manager. I am the salesman. I am everything. Everything.
Great I am.
And I work in Danville, Virginia, which was the last capital of the Confederacy. So that tells you the attitude they have there. Okay? Now, I think that it's gone too far now, because all of a sudden you start getting rap music, negative music about black women, music about killing policemen, music about robbing folk, killing folk, getting back. You dish me, so I'm gonna dish you. It's negative. And they're making money off of it. And when it gets to white announcers being in black radio and imitating black announcers now, they think all of us are like that. They think all of us come from the ghetto and this is the way we live. And it's not. It's not. It's negative. And I think we need to go back to a more positive thing. And I think the only way to do that is to get positive thinking personalities on the radio again.
It's about the talent.
It's about the talent.
Yes, it's all about the talent.
Speak about that. Sham the Sham. I love that name.
I'm no longer in management and ownership, but I've found that during drive time is when are you in your car on the way to work, 6 until 9 in the morning, 3 until 6 in the evening. That's when I would, one way or the other, come up with a little money and hire some quote talent. And then during the rest of the days, you can sort of glide just a little bit. So, but I think that's important. And one of the things I can talk to you about, I guess in the next segment, one way to get some revenue is what they call co-op. Co-op, for example, say a little Exxon station. They have, they have a budget, and if you call Exxon, say doing a 60-second commercial, if you call their name 3 times, a lot of times Exxon from the home office will pay up to 75% of that commercial schedule. Well, get a book and find out which companies have co-op. And then that's who I went after. And you'd be surprised, it worked. Because I could walk in and say, listen, Joe, you can have this spot for 75% off. Because co-op's going to pay the 75%. Can we do business? See what I'm saying? But anyway, that's what I suggest.
Yeah.
You know, there's something else too. You might want to find out if you have a national rep. And being part of the Chamber of Commerce also helps. Because, believe it or not, these large companies have a certain amount of advertising dollars that they are required to spend with minority businesses.
Joe, let me ask you this: the co-op. You were saying, is there this book? Is it a book that have the co-op?
Yeah.
Is it a particular name of the book? Or
Well,
just
you may want.
We could do it afterwards. We could do it.
okay. Because I think that's vital. I just, with our community being as poor as it is, to get dollars from other resources is great. I've heard folks say, well, if your listening audience is over, and a certain age, that's who you're going to attract too. And we know that, that our listening audience at WVOE is pretty much over 50 years old, church folk. And so now, who attracts those people? You restaurants, funeral homes. So we kind of got that, and they do well, but that's that financial piece we just can't overlook. And we're talking about to try to attract good DJs. That being in a small town, that's a kind of a challenge too. And folks don't want to get up early in the morning anymore and do certain things, and they want a certain amount of money to do those things. But with this knowledge that I'm getting from you guys to take back, I'm sure it's going to help a whole lot.
Yeah. So I'm curious, Jim. Sam.
Get Jim up.
I didn't get Jim back up there. Jim is the funny guy. Jim is the funny guy. Sam, I'm sorry, Sam. And something else too is that when you see Lee, you see Sam, you see Jim. I think they travel together everywhere they go. So,
Not always.
not always?
Not always.
Okay. I thought you guys travel all the time. Anyways, so how did, you're talking about, the fact that AI is taking over, and I think you referred to it as a jukebox. There's no more personality in radio. Can you speak about how the early DJs in the black churches, black radio, how did these DJs kind of cultivate the cultural dynamics at that time? How did they deal with that? How did they shape that?
Well, one of the things that, like we said earlier, doing early radio was they quote jive and connive. Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of Sam the Sham's lines he came up with, but he stole some of the lines. For example, if I'm going through Atlanta, I'm scanning the dial, and if I hear a jock I like, and I hear one or two of his lines, hey, I'll write that down. I'll fix it up to make it sound like me once I get back home.
I'm writing your lines down now. I'm trying to figure out how to sound like you.
No. But anyway, that is, that's one of the things I would suggest.
Yeah. What do you think, Lee? I know you're passionate about that. We spoke about this before.
You know, AI is good and it's bad. It depends on who's using it and how you're using it. It is to the point with AI, someone can steal your mortgage, the deed of your home, and go out and rack up all kinds of bills. Maybe months before you know it. But if we use AI correctly, it can be a big help to us. And I think that's been the thing with every new thing that's come out. Originally, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and everything else was supposed to be friendly. And was supposed to be a help to us. Now you got a lot of gossip on it. Now, what's news? You and I talked about that too. Because news comes from somewhere everywhere now. I'm not going to call her name, but there's a young lady sitting in this audience right now that called me the other day and said, I heard that Lisa Knowles' mama got killed and was hit by a transfer truck. But don't say anything about it until I get it confirmed. I ain't heard back yet. On social media, there was anything, does anybody know anything about the Danville Goodyear plant? Used to be one of the largest employers in Danville. On social media. Caesars, the casino, has bought the Danville Goodyear golf course. Caesars denied it. A week later, it comes out that they are selling the golf course and another additional 500 acres around the golf course, but they have not found a buyer yet. Now, through social media, how many times have we heard about a bombing at a store? Or a bomb threat at a store? How many times is it real? How many times is it a hoax? So we have to examine those things and examine them closely. And I still think that we have to stick with real news until we know what's true and what's false. Now, I know of a case where, and this was a video on Facebook in a church. And please be careful what you put on Facebook. But the founder of the church passed. His nephew became the pastor emeritus and then pastor. At the uncle's funeral, some woman gets up there and starts talking about all the women that this new pastor, the nephew, is running around with, and he got no business being the pastor. And you doing this at the funeral? And it's on Facebook? You don't have to worry about me worshiping at your church ever. Not ever. Not if that's the way y'all run it.
Yeah. Well, time is running. I can't end without asking a question about, because I hinted a little bit about white-owned black program, black-owned black programs. In Charlotte, WGIV, early on in its history, had in its logo black and white hands together. And I want to talk about white radio stations' role during the civil rights era. WGIV was obviously white-owned and made a strong commitment to black programming and supporting the civil rights movement at that time period. I'm curious, from your vantage point, your expertise, what was the role of white radio stations during that time period? Were they active in the civil rights movement, or was it just?
I don't think they were active in the civil rights movement. No, I did work at WVOE.
I didn't know that.
Okay. And the civil rights movement was basically over at that point. Now, this is just me, and nobody has to agree with me. EOE policies are good on paper, but they're not worth the paper they're written on in actuality. And the reason I say that is because I've seen too many people get promoted and get put into positions who were not qualified. And I've seen too many people who were qualified to get looked over. Now, we'll say this in terms of the non-black stations I worked at. They gave me another way of looking at things, and it was more of a professional way of looking at it. And they also taught me technique and how to put those things into practice. Therefore, when I came back to Black Radio, I was able to offer something. And I think that's what these guys were trying to tell me. You can go places where we can go. That way I got to do things that maybe they couldn't do, and maybe I could give back.
One thing that I've found that over the years, and I got to think about how to say this right, but I found that most of the stations I worked at were quote white stations. But if they got an announcer that sounded sort of like them, your job was more solidified than the other white announcers. So out in Albuquerque, KPAR, they let everybody go except me. You know, because I guess in their mind, to find someone who would sound a little bit like them, and you know, I got ridiculed, you trying to sound white. No, I ain't sounding white. It's not about white, it's about green. You understand? But anyway, I found from my own personal experience, that worked. Like old Big Me told me, turn that disadvantage into an advantage.
I think we've got maybe 2 or 3 minutes. If you have any question you want to ask, please do so now. Any questions for the panel? No? Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here. We're going to continue our conversation. We're going to obviously talk about what's probably near and dear to all of these guys' heart. That's the business side. That's what's the future of Black radio here in the Piedmont. Thank you very much.